I grew up in the bustling city of Kuala Lumpur. My childhood is filled with memories of magical aromas and intense Malaysian flavours that flowed out of my mother's kitchen. While I now call Australia home, my taste buds are still quintessentially Malaysian. Malaysia is the cultural melting pot of Southeast Asia. It's a place where Chinese, Malay and Indian cultures collide to create this unique fusion that is Malaysian cooking. Simple, fast and generally inexpensive. With a little bit of know-how, it's easy to create authentic Malaysian recipes at home. Sweet sticky ribs, it doesn't get any better than that. It's a Cantonese dish and it takes me back to our family gatherings where we go to Cantonese restaurants and there's like a banquet of 10 dishes and this would always be one of them. Traditionally using pork spare ribs, but today I'm going to use beef spare ribs. We'll start with the marinade, so that is a little bit of garlic. Now, Cantonese obviously has a lot of influence in Malaysia. There's a big Chinese population of Cantonese, Hokkien, Hakka, and this celebrates one of their popular dishes. So we've got some honey there. Got some soy sauce. We're going to add to that some oyster sauce. Some hoisin. So it's all these lovely sauces that come together and create this lovely caramel around the ribs, and it's just perfect on a day out on the balcony, enjoying the sunshine. It's really, really nice. This is Asian cooking caramel, really nice and thick. Now, if you like a little bit of spice, then traditionally, this doesn't have any chili through it, but if you want to just a little bit of zing, you can add some chili flakes. I'm not going to do it today because I'm going to try and do this recipe justice and stick to tradition. Now, these are beef spare ribs. They look divine. So we're going to mix that through, make sure it gets marinated, and we're going to stick that in the fridge for at least 2 hours. This have been marinating for at least 2 hours in the fridge. So we're going to lay them out on a rack. And you want that to be what we want to do is then to make a little bit of liquid honey. So we've got some honey here and just a bit of boiling water. And we're going to mix that because this will give it that extra sort of shiny glaze. What we want to do is to brush the ribs with it just before we put it in the oven. And oven temperature, 180 degrees. You want to cook that for about half an hour. Right. So we'll just give that a light brush. Now what we have as well is the marinade, and waste not, want not, I say. Let's put them on a plate. This is perfect. Eating it on the balcony, enjoying the sunshine. Really, all you need is just a bib and some fingers. Today we have the lovely Malaysian Roger with us, showing us how to make this delicious keema and peas curry. Now this is an Indian influence in Malaysia. It has fantastic sort of ingredients. Carol?
Yes?
Tell us more about it.
Well, keema is normally I use beef here, but in Malaysia, the Indians use lamb. Of course, the Hindus don't use beef.
So it's keema.
Keema is the name of the curry,
Right.
the type of curry.
Right.
And you could use beef. You could use vegetables in it, either potatoes. You can use tomatoes, or you could use peas.
And if you don't love peas, which I know a few of you don't,
Yes.
I'll bet you'll love them after this. I'm just starting on the curry paste, so the spice mix itself. So I've got some garlic, onion, ginger, and some green chili. Now, green chili is a lot milder, not as hot.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave the seeds in.
Yes, leave the seeds in. It's lovely to have the seeds in. But if you don't want a hot curry, you can take the seeds out. But wear gloves when you're doing that.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, and if you don't, try not to touch any body part with your hands after that, because it will sting.
And I
Voice of
noticed you put a little
experience.
bit of oil in there.
I did.
Yes, good.
Is that okay?
Yes, of course, we use oil, yes. That's the only way to get it, mince it properly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, John, do the honors.
Yes, please.
Now, I usually, when I fry up my paste, Carol, I usually sort of sprinkle a bit of salt.
Yes, yes. It adds to the color, and it also gives it aroma. It adds to the aroma. Good.
Love it.
Please,
Now,
what's
you've got a book coming out.
Yes, I have.
Well,
I
you have a lot of books, and you've also been on cooking shows and all that, but you've been very busy. Now, tell us about this new book.
Well, this book is about the family, and it tells of my Chinese nanny coming from China.
So this is a cookbook.
Yes, that's the cookbook, and that's the story. And then my father comes from Sri Lanka because his father was building roads for the rubber plantation. And then my mother is an orphan, left in a Nonya orphanage, and she grew up. She looked Indian, but she spoke only Hokkien. She was psychologically all Hokkien, you know. She only chatted in Hokkien.
Pause right there. What would you like me to add to this?
Curry powder.
Curry powder?
Maybe a couple of tablespoons.
A couple of tablespoons?
Yeah.
Now, curry powder, again, is a very Malaysian ingredient.
Very Malaysian. We do not add separately. You know, we either put cumin and fennel together, and the rest of it is curry powder. Whereas in Indian, they put each of the different ingredients put together, and they freshly grind the whole thing.
Right.
But in Malaysia, we use a curry powder, one for fish and one for meat.
Right.
And the fish one always has fennel in it, whereas the meat one has cinnamon and cardamom and all that, you know, all the sweet spices.
The lamb? Okay.
Lamb, again, typically Indian in Malaysia, but the Chinese don't like lamb, you know?
No. And it's good to know, actually, because in Malaysia, lamb is not very common. Like, we use a lot of mutton.
We use mutton,
and, of course, you know, mutton tends to sort of put off some people. But we're so spoiled for choice in Australia. We've got lovely lamb. Now, this is lamb mince. So what Carol's doing is just sort of breaking it up because we don't want any clumps. So we season it with a bit of salt, and that's always good to enhance the flavour. And of course, not to over-salt your meat because, now you taught me this, because over-salting meat tends to toughen the meat. So make sure there's a delicate balance. So we'll just cook this for a few minutes just to make sure it's nice and brown, and then we'll add the rest of the ingredients. So we'll add the turmeric.
Yes.
Turmeric powder gives it a lovely colour and also very earthy taste, I think.
And it also is antioxidant.
Of course. And this is ground
Cumin, and a little bit of fennel as well, both together. You can add the whole thing in, put all of it in, yes. And dry roasting, you know, when you've got fennel and cumin, and it doesn't look as though it's very aromatic, dry roast it in a pan, and then grind it, and the aromas all come out. It's sort of rebooting, like rebooting a computer, you know.
Perfect analogy. Tomato paste?
Tomato paste, please. Again, to give it nice color and also flavor. Tomato paste always gives it lighter flavor. And this is a very Malaysian, you know, put tomato paste in everything, putting a little bit of onion and garlic in everything.
Right.
We always start our curries with onion and garlic.
Right. And do you want to add the star anise?
Yes, you can add the star anise.
The star anise is not an Indian classic ingredient. It's quite a Malaysian sort of touch to it, because Malaysian is such a cultural melting pot. You know, you get the Thai, the Indonesian influence. and I think you get all these subtle nuances in a lot of dishes.
And,
like the water.
star anise grows in Vietnam and China. It doesn't grow in India.
Right.
So it is very much a Chinese dish, and you use star anise in pork. When we cook pork.
Yes.
You know, a lot of a pork is star anise. Okay, you can put that in now.
Water?
For hot water. I've asked for hot water because you don't stop the cooking process.
Yeah, and I liken this to when you're cooking risotto, for instance.
Yes, exactly.
So you always have to make sure the stock or the water that you use is to temperature, because you want to make sure that there's no sudden sort of change in temperature. You want to keep the cooking process sort of going.
Slow, and even cooking, you know. All right. Just wait a little bit until that's cooked a bit more, when it's aromatic, and then you put the peas, and then, of course, we season with a little bit of sugar, some lime.
So we've just added the basil. Now we're going to add the peas in.
Yeah, the peas in, yes.
So we want to add this at the last second so we don't mush up the peas. A bit of sugar.
A little bit of sugar.
To balance.
Yes.
And some lime juice.
Some lime juice, yes. Actually, more than some lime juice. Try one and then taste and see.
Okay.
How nice to have a male hand to do that, because I have to use a fork and pull it out, all the juice out. It's nice to have someone else to do it.
I'm going to taste it. Can I taste it?
Please? Yes, of course.
It's a bit of salt.
Okay, add a bit more salt.
And we're going to finish off with some coriander. Okay, so these have been roughly chopped.
Yes.
And coriander, use all of it. Like with a lot of green curry, for instance, they use the roots of the coriander. This time we're using the stems and the leaves. Very, very flavoursome, so you don't have to throw anything out, which is what I love about a lot of Southeast Asian cooking. Now this, as you were saying before, so this is the perfect mixture for curry puffs.
Yes, yes. And if you let it cook down a little more, let it dry up a bit more, that's the curry puff mixture.
Fantastic. Now what would you serve this with?
Roti or rice, coconut rice.
Right. We're always quite generous, aren't we?
We are. We have to be. Heaping over.
Better to overserve.
Yes. Heaped over with generosity.
And right. Always help to have a little bit of garnish.
And that's true, isn't it? Malaysians always invite you to their homes.
Yes, they do. Now, I like a little bit of lime as well.
Put a little bit, yes, a little sliver of lime.
Now, this goes well with a side of coconut rice or plain steamed rice. Now, this is a great Malaysian twist to your one-pot wonders involving lamb and peas. So give it a go. So easy and nutritious as well.
Very nutritious, yes.
Now, Roger in Malaysia means a mixture. And what we have here is a type of salad. And there's some different types of Roger in Malaysia. You have the Penang Roger, which is what I'll be making. But you also have the Mamak Roger. So Mamak Roger, again, it's an influence from India. And what they have is this lovely sort of prawn cake sort of layer. And it's usually served very rustic because it is street food. In Australia and in a lot of restaurants, they do sort of sex it up a little bit, giving it a bit more height and lift. But the flavour is delicious. Malaysian Roger, another classic Malaysian dish. Now, there's two versions. There's an Indian Roger and there's a Penang Roger. It's our version of a fruit salad. You're going to love it. So let's start. We've got this tamarind concentrate. So you can get that in a jar. Now, not to be confused with tamarind puree. So tamarind puree obviously is a little bit more diluted. Tamarind concentrate is thicker, and as you can see, really black. And this is almost a staple in every Malaysian fridge, really. It's shrimp paste, or belacan as we call it. Now, this is a very concentrated shrimp smell, and I remember when I was a uni student living in Melbourne, I used to make a lot of chili paste, and it would drive my housemates insane because this funky smell, it creates the most intense chili paste, but when you're frying it, not entirely the most pleasant smell, but bear with it, I promise you, this is delicious. Just going to get a small block. Now, this keeps in the fridge for 3 months, so it keeps really well. So we are going to just toast this a little. We're going to crumble that. So when you walk past any streets in Malaysia, you'll find that a lot of them, they're just set up there, really basic of stalls, and they serve it to you in like newspaper, and you just pick it out with a plastic fork. It's always good, and I used to do that on my way back from school. Now, gula melaka comes in a block like this. It is our version of dark brown sugar, really caramelly, quite different to the palm sugar that you get, the one that they sell in packets. That's the light palm sugar or light brown sugar, and this is a little bit darker. And again, you can just shave it off with a knife. You want about a tablespoon's worth, like so. Let's check on that shrimp paste into the saucepan. Just leave that in there. Now we're adding sambal olek, so this is no ordinary fruit salad. It really does have a little bit of kick to it. We're going to add some water, about half a cup. Now, Roger in Malay literally means a mixture. So a lot of people would use the word Roger to describe a mixture of flavors, a mixture of people, but traditionally it actually comes from this particular dish. So when you're mixing things together, so you've got different types of fruit, and occasionally they add vegetables too, which is what we're going to do today. The tamarind concentrate goes in. Now, tamarind, of course, is a major souring agent. We talk about balance of flavors, and occasionally when we don't use lime, lemon juice, or vinegar, we use tamarind. And a lot of curries, for instance, has tamarind in it, just to balance flavors. Now, we've got the gula melaka. Sprinkle through there, so that gives it a little bit of sweetness. Now, I know this sounds bizarre, but I'm adding a little bit of oyster sauce there as well. Trust me on this one, this is delicious. So just a tad. Just mix that through. A teaspoon or so of caster sugar. Now that can sit there until it thickens slightly. Now, while that's simmering, we've got some lychees. So lychees, you can get them fresh or you can get them in a can. If you do get them in a can, drain it out of the syrup. Sometimes they do sell lychees that is in their natural juices. Get that if you can. We've got some green mango or unripened mango that's grated, and Thai food uses a lot of green mango and green papaya, and that sort of penetrated through the peninsula, especially in the northern areas. Got some green apples here. We're going to cut them in chunks, and we're going to start basically putting them in the bowl. Now we also have some pineapple. Now, if you are in Malaysia, sometimes they do add the guava. Guava's fantastic here. Guava is seasonal, so make sure you pick your seasons right, because otherwise they won't be as tasty. We're adding some lychees in there. We're going to add the grated mango. Some cucumbers. So these cucumbers have just been de-seeded. They're just continental cucumbers. Now, I told you I do add vegetables to this, so cucumber's a good choice. Remember, there was a lot of chili in that sauce that we're making, so we want to make sure there's a cooling agent to temper the heat. Give that a good mix. Now, this sauce needs to cool down completely, and then we're going to mix that through the fruit salad. Now the sauce has cooled down, and this sort of dark and rich and thick. So we're going to dress this. Oh, look at that. Love it. I'm in Malaysian heaven. Right, let's mix this through. We need some crunch, so we've got some roasted peanuts, some sesame seeds, slightly toasted, just to round up the flavor. Another mix. And this is my Malaysian Roger, so let's serve this. Now really you can add any type of fruit that you want. Remember just to keep the texture, have multiple sort of textures of soft and hard and crunchy, and don't forget the flavors as well. I have to stop there because I really need to try this.